Hello, Bob Rietveld here, preaching and teaching minister of the Spring Hill Christian Church of rural Oak Lockney, Georgia, and welcome to another lesson, lesson number 10, I believe, on Ecclesiology, or the Doctrine of the Church. We just finished up last week our study on preachers and their role in the church, and today we're going to begin our studies on deacons and their role within the church. Today we're going to talk about biblical names for deacons and ministry assignments, and we'll wrap up with that. Next week we'll start talking about the biblical requirements for that particular office. So first of all, deacon. The Greek word is diakonos. The basic meaning of the Greek word is a servant who serves as a table waiter for his master. As when Martha complained that her sister Mary was not helping her serve the dinner table in Luke chapter 10, verse 40. Or when Jesus contrasted the person who sits at a supper table with the servant who serves the meal to the table in Luke chapter 22, verse 27. The special use of the Greek word in the New Testament, most New Testament uses of diakonos are with the general idea that Christians are servants of Christ who perform ministries in his behalf. But there are two passages which use diakonos as the title of a distinct ministry position within the church. In Paul's greetings to the overseers and deacons of the church at Philippi in Philippians 1:1, and then in Paul's description of the requirements to serve as a deacon in 1 Timothy 3, verses 8 through 13. An implication from the term diakonos regarding deacons is that their ministry will involve giving assistance to their superiors as directed. They will have an assigned task that they are expected to manage. The problem with the English word deacon, deacon is only a transliteration of the Greek word, and as such does not actually convey any of the meanings of diakonos. Transliteration, the difference between a transliteration and a translation. Translation of a Greek word would be like the Greek word agape is translated into English the word love. The transliteration of the Greek letters forming the word, the transliteration is agape. That's what that is. It's kind of like the word baptizo is not translated in the New Testament. It's transliterated into the word that we called baptize, because a translation of the Greek word baptizo means to immerse or to dip or to plunge. Just as a side note, I believe that the Bible translators purposely decided not to translate it so that they would not alienate certain sects of Christianity that do not practice immersion. Something that you really need to be careful about. But anyway, the Greek word diakonos in the New Testament, or the Greek word deacon, is not a translation. Obviously, you can just tell by the sounding of the word, it's a transliteration. However, the two English words that are typically used to translate diakonos could be misleading if used as titles for this position. The word servant would tend to sound demeaning to the person, or perhaps be perceived as pretentious humility. The word minister would tend to confuse people because of the term is so commonly understood to refer to the preacher. The title deacon has become so familiar that it can still be used profitably if the New Testament view of this ministry position is clearly taught within the church. Ministry leader. By varying the English word minister a little, the meaning of diakonos could be conveyed. And this kind of title would not likely be confused with the preacher's position. So you could do that as well. So what are some of the assignments, the ministry assignments? The primary duty of a deacon is to perform the ministry task that has been assigned to him by the elders. The etymology behind the Greek word diakonos is the key to determining the work of deacons. It brings to mind the picture of the table waiter. It implies the idea of managing the task assigned to you by your superiors. The 7 men of Acts chapter 6 show a pattern for the ministry of deacons. This incident is probably the origin of the position of deacon. These men were assigned to manage the church's distribution of food to the needy. In Acts chapter 6, verses 1 through 3, the assignment was made by the apostles, who were the current leadership of the church at that particular time. Acts chapter 6, verse 2 through 4. We know by studying the book of Acts that was meant to just be temporary, that eventually the apostles would appoint elders in all the churches, that they would be the spiritual overseers or the leaders of the church. For the men who would serve in this ministry role, the apostles established requirements in verse 3 of chapter 6 that are similar to those Paul later gives for deacons. 1 Timothy 3, 8 through 10. This incident is probably the church's source, is probably the source of the church's use of diakonos as a title. The apostles intended to appoint 7 men to serve tables. Acts 6:2. The Greek word diakoneo, this is the verb form of the term diakonos. This same verb form is later used in Paul's description of deacons in 1 Timothy 3:10. Each deacon in the church today should have some kind of ministry assignment which he manages under the supervision of the elders. Some possible ministry assignments for the deacon today could be management of the benevolence program, planning and organization of fellowship programs, arrangement of transportation services if needed, management of church records or financial bookkeeping and purchases, maintenance of church property, the chairman of a church ministry team, things like that. Deacons function with a delegated authority. Elders, preachers, and deacons have each been given an authority appropriate for their priority tasks. Elders are to operate with an administrative authority in their role as overseers of the church. Preachers are to operate with a proclamation authority in their role as evangelists of the Word, the Bible. Deacons are to operate with a delegated authority in their role as ministry leaders. A deacon's authority is delegated by the eldership and is focused upon and restricted to the area of service or ministry with which he has been assigned. The New Testament does not authorize deacons to function with an authority comparable to the elders. There is no New Testament precedent for a board of elders and deacons in which deacons have equal votes with elders. However, the elders could devise a forum in which elders and deacons interact with each other. Elders can always invite the deacons or anyone else to a meeting in an advisory capacity. A meeting of elders and deacons would provide a good opportunity to get reports from the deacons and to survey the thinking of the congregation. But the general oversight of the church should remain the responsibility of the eldership, while deacons manage their individual ministry assignments. Next week, we are going to start talking about the requirements for being a deacon. And so I hope you will join me. I hope you have enjoyed this introductory lesson on deacons and the terms that go with that. And I pray that you have a great rest of the day, and may God bless you.